Good morning. The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance, please stand. Today we will be led in prayer by the Reverend Renee R. Teague of Mount Laurel United Methodist Church of Clover. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by our Senate page, Piper Richardson of Virginia Beach.
Let us pray. Holy, ever-present one, fill this space with your love. Fill each heart with kindness and generosity of spirit. Build bridges between each one and the other, for the task is so great, it requires all of us to work together. In this time of division and strife, bring to these people your spirit of compassion and compromise. Help each one to lay aside hidden agendas and focus on one agenda, the well-being of the people of the Commonwealth. May the goal not be the well-being of the loud, the visible, the powerful, the wealthy, but rather the small child in the poorest area, the elderly widow without voice or wealth. Our children have suffered much during the pandemic, and they are struggling. Bring wisdom to this esteemed body to provide for their present and future needs. Shine forth the solutions where none seem possible. Bless these representatives with clearness of mind, with clarity of purpose, and the strength to do the work set before them. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Friday, March 4th, 2022.
The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeStaff, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, no 6.
Ayes 33, no 6. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will now report any communications from the House of Delegates. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that we waive the reading of communications from the House of Delegates.
The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 5.
Ayes 34, noes 5. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will now report any communications from the governor.
I do not have any, Madam President.
Now comes the time in the morning hour when we will hear about all of our distinguished guests in the gallery. We thank you for coming to observe your Senate. And what will happen is your senator will call on you or your group. Please stand at that time so that we can see you. And then I will speak, and then we'll applaud you. And so, with that, I now call on the senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
I'd like to ask you to give a warm welcome to our pastor this morning, the Reverend Renee Teague of Mount Laurel United Methodist Church in the Mount Laurel community of Halifax County. Thank you.
Good morning again, Reverend Teague. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your prayer, and thank you for all that you're doing to make our communities better in our great Commonwealth. And senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas. All right, let's move on. We'll come back to someone else. Chair recognizes the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
Bless your heart. Madam President, I am honored. For introduction, I apologize.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam President, I am honored to introduce members of the Sigma Pi Phi fraternity and students participating in their scholars program in the Hampton Roads region. Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, also known as the Boule, is the oldest African-American Greek fraternity with nearly 5,000 active members who are affiliated with 134 members Boules in cities across the country, the Bahamas, the United Kingdom, and Beta Lampa Boule in Hampton Roads. The fraternity developed the Boule Scholars Program to members African-American young men in Hampton Roads high schools. Today, approximately 25 students in the Boule Scholars Program from 3 Hampton Roads high schools, with mentors, chaperones having traveled by bus to Richmond to visit the legislators and experience firsthand the inner working of our representative. The group is attending state and House delegates session, and their day conclude with a guided tour of the Capitol. Madam President, will you please welcome them? Thank you so much.
Good morning to you, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. We're glad to see you here. We're glad to know you're part of a scholars program and part of the Boule group. Many have come before you, and so you're standing in the footsteps of giants and on their shoulders as well. And we hope that you will continue that tradition. And senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We're joined by someone from the White House today. We are happy to be joined today by Lauren Reyes. Lauren is the White House liaison at the Department of Labor. She holds 2 bachelor's degrees in anthropology and criminal justice, as well as her Juris Doctor. While in law school, Lauren was awarded the highest pro bono distinction with over 400-plus hours of pro bono work for nonprofits, and she worked for several law firms focusing on immigration, family law, and disability law. Her dedication to serving others carried into Lauren's work on 7 political campaigns beginning in 2016. Lauren has worked on 3 Virginia coordinated campaigns as a regional field director in 2017, the state field director in 2018, and finally as the state coordinated director in 2020 for Joe Biden and Senator Mark Warner. I would ask that we extend the warm welcome of the Senate to Lauren Reyes from the White House. Thank you, Madam President.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. And thank you for all you're doing on the federal level to make us a better country. Thank you for your service. And senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Chair now recognizes Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Madam President, thank you so very much
Yes, ma'am.
for your consideration. I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Visiting with us here today in the Capitol are students from Norfolk State University, accompanied by members of their esteemed faculty. Norfolk State University was founded in 1935 during the midst of the Great Depression. Originally, it was a Norfolk unit of Virginia Union University. 7 years later, in 1942, this General Assembly passed an act that mandated the establishment to become a part of Virginia State College. Through great triumph, perseverance, and support from the state and the college was able to continuously expand and grow, becoming fully independent from Virginia State College in 1969 and further obtaining university status in 1979. Today, these students are spending the day meeting with their elected officers and officials, sharing their personal experiences and getting a first-hand look at the work that takes place here at the Virginia General Assembly during this session. Let us continue to do the hard work that will allow us to shift our education system in a positive and forward direction. The work we do in this body will have everlasting impact on the lives and minds of all children, adolescents, and adults, fighting for quality and equitability forms of all equitable forms of education in our Commonwealth. So on behalf of the Senator from Northern Chesapeake and myself, I ask that you join me in giving the Norfolk State University students and faculty the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Good morning.
The
green and gold. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you for all that young ladies and young men you are going to do in the coming years to make us a better Commonwealth, and if you move away, a better country. Thank you, staff, Madam President, for what you do in helping to make our future leaders their better selves. And there's money in the budget. That's all I have to say. And senators, well, I was going to say, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate, but we can do it again. Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning to you.
Good morning.
Madam President, continuing the dual tradition of both recognizing young people as well as our interns, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, we have in the last week recognized those young people that work for us, and I want to recognize Thomas Weston, who's known as Reed, who's been an intern in our office the entire session. And Madam President, if this individual is an indication of the people that are going to continue in local, state, and federal government, we are in good hands. Let me share a little bit about Reed, who's only 22. He graduated with a dual degree in political science and economics from James Madison University. I asked him when he first applied some of the subjects that he was taking: international laws of war, U.S. foreign policy, global politics, international trade policy, environmental economics, politics of the European Union, comparative economic systems. And I said, what do you do for fun? Well, this is true. I take Calculus 1, Calculus 2, and Calculus 3. What prepared him, though, for working at the General Assembly, though, even intrigued me even more. He is a Central Virginia soccer referee. He is a member of the high ropes instructor for Boomerang Air Sports. That's training people on the high wire and their ropes when they're doing acrobats and trampoline work. And he's a bartender in his spare time. But consider the following. This young man, with all that stellar academic background, has participated in numerous mission trips. He's participated in church-affiliated mission trips abroad. He has taught English as a second language for adult refugees, and he's helped restore and repair refugee family housing. And did I say he's only 22? With that, Madam President, I'd ask that the body give a warm welcome to our intern, Reed Weston.
Good morning again, Mr. Weston. Come on, we're going to have to recognize you. With all of those accomplishments, certainly we want to ensure that you understand that we don't take the work you have done for the senator lightly. As you can see, it's a hard pull that the senators and the House of Delegates that they do, and the help is certainly needed, and certainly we're thankful for you and for all your talents. Senators, let us give him the warm welcome of his Senate. Chair recognizes the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggins.
Madam President, I rise for purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We have with us today a very special guest from Virginia Beach. We have Cheryl McCleskey here with us today. She's the President and Chief Executive Officer of McCleskey, which is a family-owned and operated commercial and residential real estate development and leasing company. She's headquartered in Virginia Beach. Her passion for adventure and her love of the ocean are deeply rooted from her father, who was a World War II frogman, and he was one of the first to clear the beaches of Normandy during the U.S. invasion. She's an accomplished swimmer, a champion fisherman, and also, and most importantly, a licensed aircraft pilot. And we enjoy many conversations about flying airplanes, and it's just one of her many admirable qualities. So it's an honor to have her with us today in the Virginia Senate, and please give her the warm welcome of the Senate. Thank you.
There you are. Good morning to you again. And thank you for coming to see your Senate. This is your Senate, as you know. And we're glad to have you here. And senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surreville.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a request.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the adjournment be marked to reflect the gentleman from Prince William County? The senator from Prince William County is away on personal pressing business.
Without objection, the journal will so state. Is there any other business for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Monday, March 7th, 2022. Page 8. Senate Bill 528. We have a conference committee report.
Chair recognizes Senator Reeves, the gentleman from Spotsylvania.
Good afternoon, Madam President. I've now asked that we adopt the committee conference report and explaining that.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the tax relief for retired veterans. And the compromise report just simply states the Senate position was originally to make the age bracket 60 and higher, and to go 5,000, 10,000, 15, and then 20,000 each year thereafter. The conference report was negotiated down, and what it would do would be drop the age down to 55 and move the amounts to 10, 20, 30, and 40 thereafter. That would allow us the opportunity to start catching those retirees coming off of active duty at the the back end of that time frame from 42 to about 55, your lieutenant colonels, those folks as they start their second career here. And with that, Madam President, I would ask the bill pass.
Madam President.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Northern Fairfax County, Senator Howell.
Could this go by for the day, please?
Without objection, Senate Bill 528 goes by for the day.
Turning to page 5, House Bill 1128, we have a conference committee report.
Madam President, speaking to that bill from the House.
Chair recognizes the senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Since the chairman of finance made the motion that my bill would go through, I would assume that this would be the same posture, and I'd ask it to go by for the day.
Thank you.
Without objection, House Bill 1128 on page 5 also goes by for the day.
Page 9, unfinished business House. House Bill 215, the House has rejected Senate amendments.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Madam President. I insist and request on the Senate amendments and request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist and request on its amendments on House Bill 215? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate insists and requests on its amendments.
House Bill 427, the House has rejected the Senate amendments.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate insist on its amendments and respectfully request a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its amendments on House Bill 427 and respectfully request a committee of conference on the bill? All those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Senate insists on its amendment and requests a committee of conference on the bill.
House Bill 525. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, I move that the Senate concede to the House position and recede from the committee of conference. And I'd like now to yield to the senator from
Northwestern Fairfax County.
Fairfax, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill, I'd like to explain it a little bit so everybody understands what...
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly the same education hazing bill that our body just passed last week. It is in the House's posture. The differences are that our bill went through initially very quickly, and the universities and colleges didn't really have a good opportunity to express their concerns. So the differences from what we originally did in SB 439, which was the original one, changes a little bit that if there are not Advisors in organizations, they don't have to have an advisor to go through the training. And like UVA has 300 and something different organizations, and many of them do not, like the chess club, for instance. The House version that we are looking at right now also provides that institutions provide training to current, new, and potential new members. Secondly, there is a difference in the immunity section. Both bills provide immunity from academic disciplinary procedures for bystanders. At the request of one of the institutions, language was added to the House bill, making it clear that nothing in the bill prohibited the governing board of that college or university of any institution from requiring access to services to support individuals receiving disciplinary immunity, including counseling specific to alcohol or drug abuse or both, inpatient or outpatient alcohol or drug, or combined counseling or treatment programs. And that is the difference. And so I move that we recede from the Committee of Conference and accept this version in final passage. And it is what all of us did a week ago. It's exactly the same.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Will the gentlelady yield?
Will the senator yield?
Madam President, I do.
Senator Senator Deeds has the floor.
Madam President, I would ask the senator if this bill in any way affects the criminal penalty section of the bill that we approved in Senate Judiciary.
Senator Boysko.
Madam President, that is a different bill. We will be looking at that probably later today, which I do expect will need to go into conference because we have not found common ground on that bill yet. This is the education policy bill that went through the Education Committee, which is why our senator from Portsmouth made the original motion. This is different than the one that deals with criminal hazing.
Okay, I thank the lady.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Yes, ma'am, Madam President. With that explanation, I move that we recede from the Committee of Conference, and I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the Senate recede from its substitute to House Bill 525? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate recedes and accepts the House substitute.
House Bill 761, the House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Madam President, I move that we recede from our substitute. I'd like to speak to that.
Before the senator does so, if the Senate will please come to order. Please. The senator may continue.
Thank you for piping that group in the amen corner down, ma'am.
We've got a corner over here too, Senator.
What this bill did as it came from the House was require that information relative to the complaint system through the Jerk Commission be made available in court. I thought what was good sauce for the goose was sauce for the gander, and I amended the bill in committee to require a complaint information with respect to concerns about lawyers also being made available. Well, my information is that down the hall they weren't going to find that amendment germane, and that would, of course, kill the bill. Well, this bill is very important to a constituent of the senator from, I guess, Eastern Fairfax, and also to the delegate, and so I agreed to recede from the amendment, and I'll just get my own bill. But this bill is perfectly fine the way it is, the way it came over here, and I would, again, request that you recede from the amendment.
The question is, shall the Senate recede from its substitute to House Bill 761? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate recedes from its substitute.
House Joint Resolution 16. The House has rejected the Senate substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the gentlelady from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate insist and request a committee of conference. Insist on its substitute.
The question is, shall the Senate insist on its substitute for House Joint Resolution 16 and respectfully request a committee of conference on the resolution? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate insists on its substitute and requests a committee of conference on the resolution.
House Bill 421. The House has acceded to the request for a committee of conference. Conferees on the part of the Senate for House Bill 421, as named by the Chair of the Committee on Commerce and Labor, Senator Saslaw, are Senators Eben, Mason, and Lewis. House Bill 902. The House has acceded to the request for a committee of conference. Conferees on the part of the Senate for House Bill 902, as named by Senator Eben, the Chair of the Committee on Privileges and Elections, are Senators Hanger, Mason, and Bell. Page 12, Unfinished Business Senate. Senate Bill 148 has passed the House with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Norman, gentleman from James City County.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Speaking to the bill, please.
The Senator has the floor.
Madam President, I would respectfully request that the House amendments be agreed to in speaking to that motion.
Senator may continue.
Madam President, as the bill was originally introduced, it contained an emergency clause. The better part of prudence suggested that we remove the emergency clause. The other substantive provisions of the bill remain the same, that provide limited immunity to health care providers in an emergency and disaster situation. And I'd ask we accept the amendments.
The question is, shall the Senate accept the House amendments? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. The House amendments are accepted.
Senate Bill 300 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Madam President, I move that we accept the House substitute, and I'd like to speak to that.
The senator may continue.
Madam President, the House substitute incorporates the changes that we made in the bill. House Bill 679, which we passed 40-0 here last week. And so with that explanation, I'd ask again that you accept the substitute.
The question is, shall the House substitute be accepted? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The House substitute is accepted.
Senate Bill 371 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking briefly to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would respectfully request that this body reject the House amendments, and speaking to that motion.
Senator may continue.
Madam President, this body worked carefully through this bill, which deals with the Department of Elections and the State Board of Elections, and our effort to make them both independent agencies and independent board. And I worked through this process pretty arduously, in particular well, with members on both sides of the aisle, but in particular with people who had concerns and objections. And we worked through a process where we had a mechanism to break a tie, where we had an even number on the Board of Elections. And I think that the Senate position is very well thought out and very carefully negotiated. And so with that, I would ask that this body reject the House amendments and stick with the Senate position. Thank you, Madam President.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the House substitute be agreed to? All those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 39.
Ayes 0, noes 39. The House substitute is rejected.
Senate Bill 471 has passed the House with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator McClellan, the senior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. With all due respect, with the recommendation that it be rejected, I ask that the House accept the House substitute, the Senate accept the House substitute. And speaking to that,
the senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is one of the bills recommended by the Commission on School Construction and Modernization dealing with changes to the Literary Fund to adopt recommendations made by the Department of Education and the State Treasurer. Its ultimate fate will be tied to the budget, and so we need to put this into conference to allow those conversations to happen.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the House amendment be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 39.
Ayes 0, noes 39. The House amendment is rejected.
Senate Bill 550 has passed the House with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Bell, the gentleman from Loudoun.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we accept the substitute and speak the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a fairly complicated subject, and I want to thank everyone who's worked on this. We've made a number of changes with the different stakeholder groups. This latest version changes the definition of owner, which was previously we found that was a little bit unclear. It also adds insolvency, which would protect general contractors if the owner cannot fund a project. We clarified a little bit on payments. The satisfactory completion language to make sure that was very clear. We added prop payment language and also requirements that would trickle through the tiers of subcontractors. We also included an enactment clause directing DGS procurement work group to convene and address any remaining issues. There are a few items that are still being discussed with different stakeholders to include some technical tweaks and a reenactment, and I want to give the body my word. If we can come back and get consensus on that, I will send a letter to the governor and ask for those amendments to come down. With that being said, I ask that we accept the House amendments.
The question is, shall the House substitute be accepted? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 29, noes 10.
Ayes 29, noes 10. The House substitute is accepted.
Senate Bill 473. The House has insisted on its substitute and requested a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Richmond, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we accede to the request for a committee on conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on Senate Bill 473? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate accedes to the request for a committee of conference.
Conferees on the part of the Senate for Senate Bill 473, as named by Senator Howell from the Chairman of the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Senators McClellan, Saslaw, and Stanley. Senate Bill 579. The House has insisted on its substitute and requested a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes Senator Hanger, the gentleman from Augusta.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we accede to the request for a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on Senate Bill 579? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate accedes.
Conferees on the part of the Senate for SB 579, as named by the Chairman of the Committee on Finance and Appropriations, Senator Howell, are Senators Hanger, Barker, and Locke. Senate Bill 685. The House has insisted on its substitute and requested a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes Senator Mason, the gentleman from Williamsburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate accede to the House request for a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on Senate Bill 685? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate accedes.
Conferees on the part of the Senate for Senate Bill 685, as named by the Chairman of the Committee on Education and Health, Senator Lucas, are Senators Mason, Locke, and Pillion. Senate Bill 755. The House has insisted on its substitute and requested a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate accede to the House request for a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on Senate Bill 755? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The Senate accedes.
Conferees on the part of the Senate, as named by the Chair of the Committee on Finance and Appropriations, Senator Howell, are Senators Lucas, Edwards, and Surville. Senate Bill 771. The House has insisted on its substitute and requested a committee of conference.
Chair recognizes Senator Stewart, the gentleman from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move we accede to the request for a committee of conference.
The question is, shall the Senate accede to the request for a committee of conference on Senate Bill 771? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Senate accedes.
Conferees on the part of the Senate for Senate Bill 771, as named by the Chair of the Committee on Finance and Appropriations, Senator Howell, are Senators Stewart, Peterson, and Marsden. Page 20, uncontested calendar, House Bill on third reading, House Bill 315, a bill relating to municipal elections, reported from the Committee on Local Government.
Chair recognizes Senator Lewis, the gentleman from Accomack.
Madam Chair, could that bill go by temporarily?
Without objection, House Bill 315 goes by temporarily.
Regular calendar, House bills on third reading. House Bill 451, a bill relating to stalking venue penalty, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Edwards. Chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, may House Bill 451 go by for the day.
Without objection, House Bill 451 goes by for the day.
House Bill 492, a bill relating to campaign finance, record retention requirements and reviews of campaign finance disclosure reports, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with an amendment and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the gentleman from Alexandria.
I move the committee amendment. Or I'm sorry, I move the bill pass.
No. The committee amendment, sir. You were right.
Okay, I move the committee amendment first.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be accepted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is accepted.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Roanoke County, Senator Sudeline.
Now that we've accepted the amendment, can that go by for the day?
Without objection, House Bill 492 goes by for the day.
House Bill 496, a bill relating to abuse and neglect, financial exploitation, incapacitated adults, penalties, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, I move that the House, the committee's, Judiciary Committee's substitute be adopted. It's identical to, or conforms the bill to Senator Mason's Senate Bill 687. With that explanation, I move that the substitute be adopted.
The question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted. Senator Edwards.
No, Madam President, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The bill passes.
House Bill 563, a bill relating to the School Construction Fund and Program, established funding sources, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Howell, the gentlelady from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Howell.
Thank you, Madam President. What we have done is conform the House bill to Senator McClellan's bill on school construction, so it is now in the form of the Senate position. I move that it pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The bill passes.
House Bill 585, a bill relating to middle and high school end-of-course assessments, number and type.
Chair recognizes.
Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Howell, the gentlelady from Northern Fairfax County.
The amendment be agreed to.
Question is, shall the amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is agreed to. Chair recognizes now Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to that measure,
the senator has the floor.
Madam President, what the bill does is for middle and high school end-of-course assessments, the number and type requirements except for those middle and high school students with significant cognitive disabilities who participate in an alternate assessment that each student in middle and high school to take only those end-of-course standards of learning assessments necessary to meet federal accountability requirements and Virginia high school graduation requirements. And with that explanation, Madam President, I move that the bill pass.
Chair recognizes Senator Newman, the gentleman from Bedford.
Madam Chairman, speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam Chairman, this is an item that you have heard from me before, and the bill has come before us again. Basically, I think the senator from Portsmouth actually read the part of the bill that is of most concern. Madam Chairman, this bill on line 128 through line 130 does a single item, and it cedes our graduation requirements to whatever the federal government does. Madam Chairman, over the years, I cannot say that the Washington Post and I have agreed on much. But the editorial page and I have agreed on this, that this is critical. A couple years ago, after a long battle, we lost social studies, at least the metricable test for social studies. Madam Chairman, that was a tough day for me and for many others that are out there. Madam Chairman, I know that the delegate in this case is good-hearted. He's actually killed measures to weaken our standards in the past, and he has killed measures that actually cede our control of our graduation standards to the federal government in the past. And I appreciate that. But in this case, that's exactly what we're planning to do. Madam Chairman, for so long, the state of Virginia has led on high academic standards. And what this bill says, that if the federal government gets rid of the Obama administration version of No Child Left Behind, which is just a couple of standards left, then we will go to nothing. We will go nothing in regards to the metricable tests that are in this case. And I just hope we won't do this. I know there are members here that have in the past voted for this. I just hope that in the end that we will not take this large step and that we can get enough votes in opposition to this bill that ultimately it will not become law. Madam Chairman, thank you for the opportunity.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking briefly in support of this bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I would urge the members of this body to support this important change in the way in which we assess students and students' learning. This bill actually focuses on a few core courses, Virginia Studies, Civics and Economics, Virginia and U.S. History, and Biology. But one thing that's really critical about this particular bill is that it is going to ask for us to assess students in the way that they ought to be assessed and evaluate their learning in the way that they ought to be evaluated. The new assessments would include open-ended questions, long-form writing, and have student responses scored by the Department of Education according to statewide rubrics. Why is this critical? Having taught in our colleges and universities increasingly over the past few decades, I personally began to see students who wanted to be able to take their exams on a simple assessment measure. They wanted multiple choice questions. They wanted true and false questions. What they did not want is critical essays or assessments that evaluated their ability to think or their ability to write effectively on the issues that they have learned. These kinds of assessments that are proposed in this bill actually prepare our students for the kind of skills that they need in higher education and higher learning. They challenge students in the way that we want them to be challenged, and I think we are moving in a very good and effective direction through this bill. This bill does include a 5-year delayed enactment so that every school district and teacher has time to prepare students as well as faculty for these changes. And with that, Madam President, I urge that we support this bill.
Chair recognizes Senator McClellan, the senior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to echo what the senior senator from Chesterfield said, but put it a little bit more bluntly. What's important is not that our children, when they finish these courses, can memorize and do well on a standardized test. And unfortunately, since, for the past couple of decades, couple of generations, that is what the SOL tests have been. They have been a test of how well do you memorize and regurgitate on a multiple choice test. And what we have heard from higher education institutions, what we have heard from the business community, and what we have seen is a lack of critical thinking skills and the ability to take those facts and apply them to what's happening today in our communities and around the world. These students will still be tested, but they will be tested and assessed in a way that says, I know more than just how to fill a multiple choice bubble. I know how to take the facts that I learned and apply them and the importance of those facts that I learned. And that's why I support this bill.
Chair recognizes now the gentleman from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking briefly to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I like a lot about this bill. I think we need to move towards assessment reform, and I didn't think that the senator from Washington County's bill was perfect last year, but I preferred that. I think that what we need to do, though, the greatest place for improvement in that bill and in this one is instead of specifying where we're going, we're allowing Washington to do so. So I hope that whatever happens today, I don't want to support where it is today as if it's an endorsement of this, but I hope we're able to get to substantial assessment reform like the senator from Washington County and I have previously articulated.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. The bill passes.
House Bill 758, a bill relating to probation, revocation, and suspension of sentence penalty, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations, and there is the floor substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, I move that the Committee on the Judiciary substitute be adopted.
I think you want to reject it with that recommendation?
No, it's...
You want to?
No, I think they're together. Well, okay. Wait, I guess we could reject it.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the substitute from the Committee on the Judiciary be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute. The chair is uncertain. Those who want to reject the substitute will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? For what purpose does the gentleman from Lynchburg rise?
So if we if we want to reject the substitute, shouldn't we be voting red? Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll continue the vote. This is the recommendation that it be rejected. The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 9, noes 30.
Ayes 9, noes 30. The substitute is rejected. Senator Edwards.
Now I move that we waive the reading of the floor amendment.
The question is, Shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The floor substitute reading is waived. Senator Edwards.
Yeah, Madam President, the floor substitute does two things, basically. As we had originally agreed in committee, it would say that in the case of a Class 1 misdemeanor, a judge could impose probation for 2 years, even though a Class 1 misdemeanor calls for 12 months. It also clarifies that if the judge revokes the Class 1 probation period of 2 years, the judge can only impose the maximum for a Class 1 misdemeanor, which is 12 months. That's all it does. And that's really what the substitute does. With that explanation, and while the bill's in better form, and with a recommendation we reject the floor substitute, I move that we pass the floor substitute.
All right. So we have already rejected the floor substitute, the committee substitute,
Okay,
and so now
I apologize. I move that we accept the floor substitute.
Chair calls on Senator Sorovell, the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the floor sub.
The senator has the floor.
The floor sub basically makes a bad bill a little bit better. So I would urge the body to support the floor sub. We'll talk about the bill itself in a minute.
Yeah. So I move that we.
This is that.
I move that we agree to the floor substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Peake, the gentleman from Lynchburg. The question is, shall the floor substitute be accepted? Those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The floor substitute is accepted.
Now that the bill is in better form, and with a recommendation that we reject the bill, I move that the bill pass. I hope you're not too confused. I move that the bill pass with a recommendation that we vote no.
All right. The chair recognizes the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Sorovell.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the substitute.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm sure that Mr. Jefferson's rolling around over there after that amendment and the recommendation, but notwithstanding that, I would just note that the statute we're amending here just became law about 7 months ago, and it's barely had time to be either implemented or tested or litigated. And in fact, there's actually litigation pending in the Court of Appeals about it right now. And this is not something we need to go around trying to monkey with right now. I would hope the body would note there's even a reenactment clause on it, so even if we did pass this, it wouldn't do anything. And I just think we need to put this thing to bed for this year. We can come back, talk about it again next year. But I think this whole idea is premature, and initially was part of some broader discussions we were having, which didn't go anywhere. And so the bill needs to die quickly. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, would the gentleman from Eastern Henrico yield for a question?
Eastern Fairfax?
Excuse me. Eastern Fairfax County.
Senator Sorovell, will you rise and yield?
I'll yield.
Gentleman yields. Senator Morrissey.
Madam President, I'd ask the Senator just make sure that I have this correct, and I'm sure some others are wondering as well. Last year, when we dealt with technical violations, we passed legislation that for a first technical violation, the most that could be penalty that could be imposed is imposition of sentence suspended. For a second technical violation, a maximum of 14 days, and for a third technical violation, the person could receive up to the maximum sentence. Is that correct?
Senator Sorovell has the floor.
Madam President, I think you're correct. I think in this substitute, That might be on lines 55 through 67, but that generally sounds right to me.
Final question.
Will the senator from Eastern Fairfax County yield?
I'll yield.
Senator Morrissey has the floor.
And I believe the senator is suggesting that today, since that legislative change last year has not had time to percolate its way through the criminal justice system, where you're asking us to kill this bill and let's see how those reforms take place. Is that correct?
Senator Sorovell.
You got it.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank the senator.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 18, noes 21.
Ayes 18, noes 21. The bill fails.
House Bill 820, a bill relating to the Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity Disparity Study, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Howell, the gentlelady from Northern Fairfax County.
Sorry, Madam President. I move the amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to. Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that we passage of the bill and speaking to it.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President and members of the Senate, this bill is providing regular reporting of evaluation of supplier diversity by doing a disparity study once every 5 years, starting in 2024. And that's the substance of this bill, and I'd renew my motion that it pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. The bill passes.
House Bill 821, a bill relating to the maximum number of judges in each judicial circuit, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, I move that House Bill 821 pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
This is identical to Senator Sherville's Senate Bill 6. It has to do with the 31st Circuit courts. It's in Prince William County and some other counties as well. And so I move, with that explanation, it passed this body significantly, and I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 837, a bill relating to food and drink law permitting requirements, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the gentleman from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be accepted? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is accepted. Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After that overwhelming vote to amend this bill, we now have a bill that has a reenactment clause, which is good because I think this bill ought to pass, but it's going to need more work. This bill deals with overlapping jurisdiction of Virginia Department of Agricultural and Conservation Resources, colloquially known as VDACs, as well as Virginia Department of Health, as well as local governments that have their own health authorities. To make a very long story short, you have overlapping jurisdiction and overlapping inspections, which can be problematic for convenience stores and others that serve both the restaurant prepared meal community as well as fast food convenience stores. The bottom line is there's both confusion and a need for reform here, but I don't want to move too quickly. We do have localities in Northern Virginia that have standalone inspection programs that we need to be cognizant of that. So we need to get this bill into conference. We are going to get a bill out of here. I do hear you from the consumer side, but I just want to make sure we get the right version. So please vote to pass this bill so we can put it in conference. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bill passes.
House Bill 1257, a bill relating to natural gas utilities retail supply choice. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the gentleman from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 1257
you
came
want to
into this.
move the substitute first?
Move the substitute. Move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be accepted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is accepted. Senator Peterson.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, they say that the month of March comes in like a lion and leaves like a lamb. That kind of is a good metaphor for Senate Bill 1257. It came to this body as basically a very strong pro-business bill, pro-get off my back, don't tread on me bill, don't discontinue my gas service bill. And it leaves as a lamb thanks to the healer from not Galilee, but rather the city of Richmond, known as the junior senator from Richmond, who had a very good compromise that basically says you can't continue natural gas service if you're a public entity unless you hit certain criteria. It's a fairly short bill at this point. I think all the parties are generally in agreement. I'll see if this gets accepted on the other side, and if so, it'll go to conference. But otherwise, I think this is a pro-consumer bill, and I thank the junior senator from Richmond for his good work. And I move the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The bill passes.
House Bill 1310, a bill relating to the Virginia Public Procurement Act, revision of procurement procedures, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that House Bill 1310 pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
This is a relatively straightforward bill. What it does is it requires, specifies that public bodies that are doing purchases and procurement should be cognizant of benefits that may be taken in terms of a process developed by the federal Department of General Services there. With that, I renew my motion to pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar House bills on second reading.
Chair recognizes Senator Saslaw, the gentleman from Fairfax County, the senior gentleman from Fairfax County, the senior senator from Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that all House bills on second reading on the uncontested regular calendar, pages 26 through 55. That's House Bill 128 through 1360, that the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, Shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House Bill on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 26 through 55, House Bill 128 through 1360, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Chair again recognizes Senator Saslaw.
I now move that those said bills go by for the day, Madam President.
The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on third reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bills will now go by for the day.
Page 55, uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading. Senate Bill 776, a bill to provide for the sale of surplus property from the Pocahontas Building as part of the General Assembly Replacement Project and the transfer of all proceeds from the sale to the Virginia Capital Foundation. Senate Bill 777, a bill relating to front and rear bumper height limits. Uncontested calendar, House Joint Resolutions on second reading. House Joint Resolution 11, requesting the Workers' Compensation Commission to study a prohibition on charging workers' compensation premiums on bonus pay, vacations, and holidays report. House Joint Resolution 61, continuing the Joint Committee of the House Committee on Health, Welfare, and Institutions, the House Committee on Public Safety, the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, and the Senate Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services, studying staffing levels, employment conditions, and compensation at the Virginia Department of Corrections report. Uncontested calendar, Senate Joint Resolution on second reading. Senate Joint Resolution 169, confirming appointments by the governor of certain persons communicated to the General Assembly February 18, 2022. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the gentleman from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. Could that bill go by for the day prior to engrossment?
Without objection, Senate Joint Resolution 169 goes by for the day.
On page 20, returning to House Bill 315, reported from the Committee on Local Government.
Chair recognizes Senator Lewis, the gentleman from Accomack.
Madam President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to that motion,
the senator has the floor.
Madam President, House Bill 315 seeks to bring about changes to the charter for the city of Roanoke to effect a move from May elections to November elections. And with that, Madam President, I would yield to the gentleman from Northern Chesapeake.
Chair recognizes Senator Spruill, the gentleman from Northern Chesapeake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, the members ask you to approve this bill. It was being passed by for the day 3 or 4 times. And in my caucus this morning, I asked a question, why is this bill being passed by every day? So what I did, I went and talked to the delegate. And then I went and talked to the senator. I asked him what's going on with this bill. And we have had at least 20 charter changes from May to November. It's already the law anyway, so that's no problem with that. So talk with the senator from Senator Suderline, I believe. So I said, what's the problem? Now here's the problem that he had. Number one, the problem was to extend the term limits. If you had an election, if your city council voted in May, and now it has been changed to November, you have to stay on from May to November. That's the law now. So that's the extension that he was talking about, I assume. Because those of us who will have an election in May and you take office on July 1st. But because the law says now the elections are in November, so those who are on the council now, they will stay until November. The second thing I asked him about, he was saying about a member that has been appointed by council. Then I checked with Senator Lucas, Mayor Locke, Delegate Mason. I bless your heart, Senator Mason. Thank you. And I said, what about that? And also, Senator, let me say it for the first time, John, the senior senator from Chesapeake. That's hard for me to say. But anyway, I'll say with that. Now, to that issue, if a member, we had the Commonwealth Attorney in Chesapeake, who was just elected, and City Council appointed Dwight Parker, and I asked a member who was appointed, do they have the same rights as any member who was elected? And yes. So a member who was appointed by City Council until the next election had the same right. Those who are on the council now, who terms are up in May, will stay on to November. So my concern was that this charter change that was voted on by the Senate, in our committee, Madam Chair, is voted 14-0. Every good Republican, every good Democrat voted for it. So I'm wondering, I'm asking y'all to please, let's get this bill out here. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam President, I apologize.
Chair recognizes Senator Suderline, the gentleman from Roanoke County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking briefly to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We have passed several charter changes that reflect the change in the general law last year. This charter change request is a little bit different. This one came separate from all that action. Roanoke City Council had a meeting in which they did not even advertise that they sought to move the election, tried to railroad it through, and only because the city attorney made it clear that you actually have to advertise such things did it then go forward. I wasn't going to bring up the issue about the member who was appointed, but in the situation, because it was brought up, when the Commonwealth Attorney in your county gets appointed, they serve until the next election. And they can't serve any more than, even if it's right up before the election, it's about 14 months, which is the longest possible. This was teed up in Roanoke City, so it was 2 years. It was basically a delegate's term with no election. I wasn't going to bring that up, but it was brought up. I don't think that it's appropriate for us to support this change. Like the senator said, the general law changed irrespective of it, but we should not condone folks extending their term, trying to move it to November in the way that they did. That was not right, and we should not pass this bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 20.
Ayes 19, noes 20. The bill fails.
Having voted on the prevailing side,
For
I move
what
that we
purpose?
reconsider that vote. I vote for a motion. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move that we reconsider that vote.
The question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 315 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of reconsideration will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The vote is reconsidered. Chair recognizes Senator Spruill, the gentleman from Northern Chesapeake.
Thank you, Madam President. Having previously explained the bill, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. The bill now passes.
No, ma'am, it fails.
I'm sorry, fails. It passes. Oh, yes, it fails. I'm sorry. I just saw it needs 27 votes. It needs 27 votes to pass. It needs 27 votes to pass because it is a charter change. Yes. Are we done? Chair now calls on Senator Sasloff, the gentleman from Fairfax County.
Madam President, I require the clerk to complete the calendar for today.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other? Yes, I see any other business. Chair recognizes Senator Locke, gentlelady from Hampton.
Madam President, I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, March is Women's History Month. As we enter into the month of March and begin to honor the historic contributions women have made to the American history story, I would like to take a moment to reflect upon my own journey and the women who have impacted my life. Upon completing my PhD in the mid-1980s, one of my dissertation advisors offered me the opportunity to attend a historic conference at the Carter Center in Atlanta entitled Celebrating the Bicentennial of the Constitutional Convention in 1988, where influential women from across the country would gather to discuss the complexities of a document that declared we the people of these United States were forming a more perfect union, while deliberately excluding women, indigenous people, non-land-owning whites, and all those of African descent who were counted within the document as only 3/5 human and for political purposes. The event was convened by former First Ladies Lady Bird Johnson, Rosalind Carter, Betty Ford, and Pat Nixon. It was attended by giants of both women's rights and civil rights movements, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sandra Day O'Connor, Geraldine Ferraro, Coretta Scott King, Rosa Parks, and my personal hero, Barbara Jordan. I, as a young scholar and college professor, just a few years out of graduate school, sat in awe and wondered what I was even doing in a room full of such momentous change makers. Barbara Jordan, who was the first elected African-American woman from Texas elected to Congress, and who inspired me as a young undergraduate with her powerful service to the United States House of Representatives Judiciary Committee during the Watergate investigation, addressed the conference. She stated, and I quote, "The United States Constitution has a very eloquent beginning with we the people. But when the Constitution of the United States was completed on September 17th, 1787, I was not included in that we the people. I felt for many years that somehow George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decisions, we can be included in we the people." End of quote. Her comments echoed ideas that had framed the paper I delivered at that conference, entitled From 3/5 to Zero, Implications of the Constitution for African American Women, 1787 through 1870. And I got that title from the fact that in the writing of the Constitution, African Americans were counted as 3/5, and in 1870, with the passage of the 15th Amendment, we went to zero. And sitting in that room, one table away from Rosa Parks, all the pieces came together, and I knew that my life's work would be dedicated to continuing the legacy of other African American women who had fought through the bonds of enslavement, the bloody marches of the civil rights movement, and the biased halls of legislative bodies across the country to cash in on the promise of the Constitution and demand our place among we the people. A recent op-ed from the Commonwealth Secretary of Education, Amy Gadara, claimed that the administration would ensure that, quote, while we must confront our past, educators must not lose sight that in America, all are created equal, end of quote. Today, I must again challenge the administration to not continue to ignore reality for the comfort of rhetoric. Be mindful of former Congresswoman Jordan's assessment of the concept of we the people and being created equal. Do not continue to pretend that certain aspects of history did not exist and misconstrue the facts about everyone being created equal. Madam President, I'd like to share just a bit of that history, inequality, and the journey of women who defied the odds and went on to find their place despite the inequities. Mary Jackson, a fellow member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority with me, and one of the inspirations behind the film Hidden Figures, graduated from Hampton University with a dual degree in math and physical sciences. Mrs. Jackson did not enter into an equal world where merit alone would determine her future. Even with her education and brilliant mind, she struggled to find work in the still segregated Commonwealth. She took a job teaching math at a black school in Calvert County, Maryland. But as the country entered World War II and her hometown of Hampton became the epicenter of war efforts, her patriotism drew her home to serve her country. She worked as a receptionist at the King Center USO Club, where she served the city's black population to support soldiers who fought, bled, and died equally on the battlefields of war in Europe, but were still not considered equal when they returned home. At the height of the space race between the United States and the USSR, Mrs. Jackson earned a position at NASA serving as what was then called a human computer. Working with outdated equipment in segregated facilities, she, alongside other African-American women mathematicians, including Dorothy Vaughan and Katherine Johnson, performed the complex calculations that enable humans to successfully achieve space flight and launch the first humans into orbit and successfully return them back to Earth. Even this great feat did not earn them status as equal, as she and her other co-workers were forced to break from this strenuous work and eat lunch at tables labeled colored. This inequality did not deter Mrs. Jackson, who was noted for her exceptional mind, outstanding mathematical capabilities. After working for a short time amongst the human computers, she was offered the opportunity to earn a promotion from mathematician to engineer. Trainees had to take graduate-level math and physics in after-hour work courses managed by the University of Virginia. Because classes were held at the then segregated Hampton High School, Mrs. Jackson was reminded again that she was not equal and was required to get special permission from the courts to join her white peers in the classroom, in the back of the classroom. Never one to flinch in the face of a challenge, she completed the courses and earned a promotion, and in 1958 became NASA Langley's first black female engineer. By the way, the NASA Langley facility is located in Hampton, Virginia, not Newport News. And I say that because the resolution stated that it was in Newport News and not Hampton. Mary Jackson was a member of the Hampton chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the same chapter I belonged to when I came to Hampton in the early 80s, as was Dorothy Vaughan, another member of the Hidden Figures. Dorothy Vaughan, a mathematician, became an expert Fortran programmer and the first African-American female supervisor at NASA. We are most familiar with Katherine Johnson, the third hidden figure, also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. I say that for the senator from the senior senator from Richmond and my seatmate here, both members of Delta Sigma Theta, who lived with her husband, Colonel James Johnson, in Hampton. Mrs. Johnson was also a mathematician and did trajectory analysis for both Alan Shepard's and John Glenn's flights in 1961 and 1962. Each of these three notable women will be honored with the unveiling of historical markers at the Virginia Air and Space Center in Hampton on March 23rd. Madam President, to conclude, the Constitution, as Congresswoman Jordan proclaimed, is indeed an evolving document. It has come a long way over these last 235 years, even in the 34 years since the Bicentennial Conference where both Congresswoman Jordan and I spoke. But what we must be mindful of her words regarding we the people. Many of us were left out in 1787, and it has taken a lot of work that continues to this day, to bring us closer to creating that more perfect union. But we cannot get there by creating alternative facts and eluding the reality of history, facts, and the truth. Thank you, Madam President.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, we just heard about some very serious women who have fought for the rights of women and minorities over the past century. And I want to tell you about someone who took a more humorous and sometimes exciting approach. I'm going to start with a quote that this woman made, and it is, "Sweetie, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up space." Florence Ray, otherwise known as Flo Kennedy, was born in 1916. She was a lawyer, an activist, a civil rights advocate, a lecturer, a writer, and a feminist. She loved being outrageous, and she was known for her lively outspokenness. Merging civil rights and women's rights, Ms. Kennedy brought a new meaning to intersectional feminism, embodying genuine inclusion like no one before her. She was a daughter of a Pullman porter, and Ms. Kennedy was one of the first black women to graduate from Columbia Law School in 1951. But she didn't get there without a fight. At first, when she applied, she was initially refused admission by the university. But feel good about this, folks. She was told it wasn't because of it was her race, it was her gender that was not going to be allowed. So she fought. She threatened to sue, and she was accepted along with a handful of other women, one of 8 who graduated in her class, and she was the only black woman. In her legal capacity, once she graduated from law school, she went on to represent the estates of jazz icons Charlie Parker and Billie Holiday to reclaim funds for their estates that were owed for them because funding had been withheld by their recording companies. After that, she decided that political activism was really where her heart was. She was an early member of the National Organization for Women. In 1971, she founded the Feminist Party. And you may remember a woman by the name of Shirley Chisholm. She was behind her when she ran for president. Flo Kennedy spent the next decade lecturing across the country with speaking partners like Gloria Steinem. And she was known for bringing white feminists to Black Power conventions, integrating the movements of Black Power, women's liberation, and gay rights, working together as one, bringing new perspectives to a variety of intersectional issues. Kennedy would use what we'd call today, and I learned the phrase from my own daughters who are activists themselves, intersectionality, as her approach to activism. Sherry Randolph, who wrote her biography, said that Flo had said, "My main message is that we have a pathologically, institutionally racist, sexist, classist society." And she continued, "These techniques that are used don't only bring damage to Black people, but they also damage white people, women, gay people, ex-prison inmates, prostitutes, children, old people, handicapped people, Native Americans. And that if we can begin to analyze the pathology of oppression, we would learn a lot about how to deal with it." Sounds like a conversation we've been having in this chamber, doesn't it? With an immeasurable impact on civil rights and equality for all, Kennedy's legacy serves as a reminder that black women are often the core of social and political progress, despite being overlooked in history. An empowering figure for women today, Kennedy is remembered for her flamboyance, her ferocity, and she never apologized for it. In fact, I want to give tribute to many of the women in this room who have followed in those footsteps with fortitude and perseverance. And with that, I am so glad that it is March and it is Women's History Day, and one day we will have women's history classes in our high schools that will be taught throughout the state. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purposes of a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the body, not only is March Women's History Month, but it's also the time of year that annual event known as March Madness sweeps the country. And as many of you have noticed, this has not been a good year for hoops in the Commonwealth. America's team, the Virginia Tech Hokies, lost Saturday to Clemson, most likely dooming their chances of entering the big dance. The University of Virginia also having a lackluster season, most likely on the outside looking in, ODU, VCU. But fear not, citizens of the Commonwealth, JMU, most likely on the outside looking in. The heart of the 22nd Senate District, the hometown of Monty Mason, Longwood Lancers yesterday defending the honor of the Commonwealth, winning the Big South Basketball Championship, and securing a spot in the NCAA tournament. And they may, unfortunately, be the only team from the Commonwealth in the big dance. But I know they will do us proud. And so pay attention this next week and pull for the Longwood Lancers as they take the tournament by storm and probably bring home a second championship to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggins.
Madam President, I rise for an announcement and a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, my announcement is that tonight we have at 6 o'clock tonight on the ground floor of the Pocahontas building a celebration of life for a member of our political family from Virginia Beach. We have Delegate Anderson's legislative assistant, Chad Brown, who passed away unexpectedly last week. We're doing just a small memorial service, but you are all welcome to attend. And just speaking briefly about Chad, so he was one of our political family members from the beach, and we have what I think is a pretty tight-knit group down there. We spent many, many months this past fall working, very hard and every night of the week sometimes, and especially for the seat that Delegate Anderson now holds, that was a lot of work. And Chad was Delegate Anderson's campaign manager and then served as his LA also. Chad was ever present. He was always smiling. He was always moving. He was a super hard worker. He was just a light for us and a source of positivity. And we were all shocked and saddened by his death. But I think that his absence is felt by all of us, especially for some of our staff members. Those guys work closely together, all of our legislative staff. And it just, I think, really highlights the fragility of mental health. And just to speak to that for a minute, as a mental health provider, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to know when people are having problems with mental health. But I think in our line of business especially, I know during campaign season and I know just during session especially, what we do is hard work. We demand a lot from our staff, and they certainly are there for us. They're our right hand. I would certainly be nowhere without my staff. So I just ask that we check in with each other, check in with our staff, because I think that just Chad's death and absence for us just has impacted some of us, especially from the Hampton Roads area, just more than others. So I ask also today that we adjourn in honor of Chad Brown. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. Rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would say to the gentleman from Lynchburg, au contraire. This is Division III basketball going on right now, and we don't call it March Madness. We call it March Mildly Exciting. Randolph-Macon College is #1 in the country. #1, already in the Sweet 16. Senator Lewis, Senator Stanley, eat your hearts out, you Hampton-Sydney guys. But go Jackets. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Bless your heart. Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this is to my Senator Peake.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you so much. Bless your heart again. Senator Peake, to him, don't be surprised. I know you keep saying they're the only one. But I want you to this, on behalf of Senator Lucas and myself, watch out for the green and gold. I know y'all big boys saying UV and so forth. We shocked y'all one time before, a couple years ago. So after this week, when a little small school from North Virginia, Norfolk State, when they get them play the big boys again, and yes, Modern Nation, we wear y'all colors green and gold. I understand that. But on behalf of Senator Lucas and myself, don't y'all be surprised when the green and gold start playing with the big boys and beat y'all hind parts again. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Madam President, I reluctantly rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. After listening to this basketball nonsense, my seatmate turns to me and says, "You're going to now talk about puppies?" And you know what I am. I'm going to talk about the cutest thing ever created on this good earth, besides Senator Morrissey, puppy dogs. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for the hard work that you all did. We had the Invigo incident, and Senator Boysko, Senator Marsden, Senator Favola, Senator Hackworth, Delegates Bell and Orrock worked very hard to make sure that we're going to hold those people that breed dogs, especially beagles, for scientific purposes accountable and regulate them and treat them in the way that they should be treated to make sure that these animals, if they're doing God's work and human scientific advancements, then when they've done their work, then they should be given a forever and loving home. Ladies and gentlemen, there is more that we must do, and I need your help. And I know, Senator Howell, you love beagles. You may have seen last week there was a couple beagles in our office. And as much as Senator Obenshain wanted to pet the dogs, he would go nowhere near them, because he knew they were too cute and he would have one. The senator from Southside over there, his legislative aide adopted one. Delegate Kay Corey adopted the second one. There were 480 beagles that were overbred during the pandemic that, rather than euthanize them, and I credit Invigo for doing that, I've been working with them to find forever homes. 480. We've done almost half of that. We have found half of those beagles freedom and homes. And then we added 2. And there's going to be 2 more, Senator Deeds, coming this week. And I know many have approached us. These are the best dogs you'll ever meet and love, fall in love with, and have in your home. I have 2, and they are simply the greatest dogs. But you need to do what we can to make sure we find the rest of those 280 left homes. And so I'm calling on anyone who wants the cutest little big-eared face. I'm not talking about Senator McDougal. It's a dog. And they're a lot more cuddly than he is, too. But anybody who you know who would want to make, who would open their hearts and want to make a forever home for these dogs, I ask that you give us a call at our office. I want to thank Sue Bell with Homeward Trails Rescue. She's been a hero, the Richmond SPCA. And quite frankly, I think this Senate can help out because, I looked through the rostrum. I know we can get these dogs adopted because we have senators named Senator Barker. Not only that, we have a senator named Senator Ruff. And my personal favorite, we have a senator named Senator Ryan McDougall. Let's find these puppies homes. You want one? That's a no, but I know you're a yes. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Vogel, the gentlelady from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a very brief point of personal privilege and, frankly, a public service announcement.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The hour is late, and I think that I, for one, need to go to work, and I have absolutely enjoyed the Beagle comments from my colleague, and I just have to say this because I am friends with and love and adore the members of this body, and I cannot let that go unanswered because I have had a lot of dogs in my life, and I am a great dog lover. But the last dog I got was a Beagle. And let me just tell you that if he tries to get you to adopt a Beagle, you might want to think twice. And because my beloved daughter is not in the gallery, I'm just going to tell you that that dog is the loudest dog, the yippiest dog. At 2 o'clock in the morning, that dog howls and howls and howls. And I love to go beagling. I love to go beagling on horseback. The Beagle Institute is right by where I live. Yes, but I just want to tell you that that Beagle is literally, at times, the bane of my existence. And so when I sit here and listen to him say all those amazing things about that Beagle, I might bring my Beagle tomorrow and deliver it to his office and let him keep it for the remainder of the legislative session just so he can work on that Beagle. And so I would just advise all of you that Beagles are wonderful and they are certainly worthy of adoption, and that maybe when my daughter is not looking, I might bring mine for adoption. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I would love to end my legislative session with one less Beagle.
Madam President. Madam President.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Franklin County
to respond
rise?
to the point of personal privilege in the most basic and brief ways.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I thought that the senator from Fauquier had like 14 people to take care of those issues at her big giant house. And maybe, Madam President, this reminds me of even another reason why we need to find homes for these beagles, and the occasional one that barks late at night, because we have Senator Howell. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President.
Senator Vogel.
If I may just, for one final moment of a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Even Senator Howell could not drown out the noise that my Beagle makes. There are not 20 people, there are not 100 people that could make my Beagle be quiet. And so with that, I would just caution the members of this body on a Beagle.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Chesapeake.
I'm here for a request.
The senator has the floor.
Would they stop dogging each other?
Is there any other howling business to come before? Hearing none, the clerk will now give us any announcements.
Announcements for today, Monday, March 7th, 2022. Reminder, all joint commending and memorial resolutions must be filed with the clerk by 5 o'clock p.m. today. Committee on Commerce and Labor will not meet today. The Committee on General Laws and Technology will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. Tuesday, March 8th, 2022, Democratic Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 1 in the Capitol. The Republican Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 2 in the Capitol.
Chair now calls on Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
I thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn
until 11 a.m. tomorrow, and that the Senate suspend the rules and direct the clerk to accept memorial and commending joint resolutions to be introduced until 5 p.m. today. And in adjourning, Madam President, I move that we do so in memory of Chad Brown.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 11 a.m. tomorrow, and that the Senate suspend the rules and direct the clerk to accept memorial and commending resolutions to be introduced until 5 p.m. today, and also in the memory of Chad Brown. All in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? We have to record the votes because we're suspending the rules. And so, will you record your votes aye? Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, 0. The Senate now adjourns until 11 a.m. tomorrow, and the Senate has suspended the rules and directed the clerk to accept memorial and commending resolutions.
So I can put it in my, okay, Adam, sit down. You're going to be in a picture.